All right, so we are live. Nandita, hi. A very warm welcome to all the guests on our live stream on LinkedIn. Let's quickly run a round of introductions over here. Myself, Amrit Ashipalya. I have with me Nandita Rao, the founder of MeWiser, an edtech startup based in Bangalore. So, so today we are having this session. It is the first episode of the volume one of Amazing Entrepreneurs. Amazing Entrepreneurs is a series of conversations with the entrepreneurs, business leaders, and it is a series that talks about the hustle that goes behind entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship as a discipline is often glamorized by the world to an extent that it sets often wrong expectations in the minds of young aspiring entrepreneurs. So today, through this initiative, what we are trying to do is highlight what goes behind the scenes, actual behind the scenes of entrepreneurship through these conversations with entrepreneurs. We have a lineup, and we are going to talk to a lot more business leaders through this particular month. So, starting today, we have, as I said, Nandita Rao of MeWiser, an edtech startup based in Bangalore. Hi, Nandita.
Hi,
A
Amrit.
quick
Glad to
introduction.
be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Very excited. I think you've set up a very good note on what amazing entrepreneurship, amazing entrepreneurs is trying to achieve. I think it's very important that certain things are narrated the right way, right from the horse's mouth. And I hope I can do justice with that objective. So, um, a little bit about my company. I started MeWiser in around May 2021. And it's been a little bit over a year since it has started. And we are an educational content company. We are creating content in science, but we have a vision of being more broad based in the curriculum that we create. So we're starting with science, but we wish to touch all subjects. And I think what bears correction is also that we don't look at subjects as siloed pieces of content or curriculum. We want to encourage a very multidisciplinary approach to looking at how we study, how we educate ourselves.
Superb. So, whenever we are talking about businesses, whenever we are talking about entrepreneurship and journeys, where it all starts from is from a problem that either an entrepreneur is facing or either the entrepreneur observes that someone is facing in the society. And that's where the person decides to take the plunge and solve that problem. So, let's talk about what problem is MeWiser trying to solve.
Mm. That's actually an interesting question, Amrit, and I'll tell you why. There is a very nice anecdote. It's very close to my heart. Actually, what happened is in the first lockdown in during COVID, we were all sitting at home. The business I was working with, I was previously with Cult, and the business had shut down. Centers were shut, and we had some time while the business was figuring out the next move. So there was some time on hand, and I picked up history books to figure out, let's give history a try, because I wasn't very good at history, and I thought, let me not touch the sophisticated writers. Let me go back to the NCRT textbooks, because those are the like that's very simple thing to start with. So I kept my expectations very realistic, and I started with history NCRT textbook. And it was so warm to pick those textbooks up because it was very familiar. It was all the same even now, and I'm like, okay, this is familiar, this is nice, this is comforting. And then I was wondering, okay, this is history is not supposed to change so much unless people fiddle with it. But what about science? What's happening in science textbook? And when I picked up, like, to my horror, actually, that science textbooks also look very, very similar to what we had read. And I'm wondering, how is this possible? Like, how can children today relate with a textbook like this when the environment is so different than what was ours? Now, like, let me take an example. Consider ECG. Okay, we read it in our textbooks. We read it like in the chapter on blood and heart, that you measure the activity of the heart using an ECG.
Mm.
till very late in life, I had never seen an ECG being done or see a report from the ECG machine. Okay. But now my smartwatch uses ECG. It produces results on ECG. It's reading my heart on a real-time basis. That's the environment that a child is living today. I did not see ECG throughout my life, and now the child has ECG happening in real-time basis, right? So the textbook science is so much more closely connected to us right now than it was before when we were studying it, right? So that bears a repetition repeat. I mean, the children need to see that application happening on everyday basis on every concept that they're seeing. ECG cannot be a one-off example, right? So I spoke to one of the mothers here in Bangalore, and she's like, yeah, my child loves animals, but he's like, why I don't see a career in loving animals. Like, I can't just be a veterinary doctor. So I said, that's not true. There are so many things that you can do with your love for animals, and give me a chance. Let me figure that out for you. And that was the starting point of Me Wiser, where I started figuring out what is the best way to show children how they can apply their love for knowledge, their love for science, their love for things around them, and can maybe possibly convert them into meaningful careers in the future. And that's how Me Wiser began a program which is all about real life examples, application of their textbook concepts in real life, to see their textbook concepts coming alive. I'll put Me Wiser in very simple words. This is how I usually describe it. Imagine Discovery Channel. You switch it on, but instead of a regular program that Discovery shows, you are going to watch something about a topic from your chapter 8 from class 7 science textbook. That's what Me Wiser is.
It's more relevant and it's more connected with the people who are receiving it. Would you say that there's a disconnect between the textbooks and the actual things that are happening around?
Yes, I think there is a disconnect. And the disconnect is that it's very difficult to see beyond the experiments that the textbook describes, like this is how it's being tested or run in the science lab. But that's not what we want. What we want is how people are using it on a very real basis right now, today, as of now, what's happening with that concept. That is a very powerful driver of how a child will learn, absorb, inculcate, retain and apply, how the child will connect with that knowledge. That's the most important aspect of delivering knowledge.
For the essence of this live stream and the people that have joined us today on LinkedIn, I would love if you could throw some examples of the real life applications that you are trying to demonstrate from at Me Wiser from on your platform, where you are having a model of subscription, I guess, and you are having the content. So some examples. Right. Who doesn't love examples?
Absolutely. And I would love to share the examples. I love talking about our content. So here are a few examples. Let's say we read a chapter on airflow. The wind has speed, the wind has force, etc. And there are the examples that you can see is the kite is flying, there is a force being applied, and then the aeroplane is flying, and there are different forces acting on the airplane, and all that is happening. Now, what example that we give generally in our module on airflow is there is a person, Dr. Gustavo Estrada. He is an aerodynamics engineer. Very simply, he's a person who studied for real about airflow and pressure and all those physical forces. And now he's at Mercedes designing the new AMG GTR. That's the fastest street legal race car, okay, that Mercedes has. And he's using all those principles of airflow in designing that car. The point that I'm trying to make is that we describe in our module how he used certain principles of airflow to design features in that car, right? And the children need to see how very simple thing like air has force is leading to a field of aerodynamics, and that field is designing, okay, airplanes, yes, but also the car that you're driving. And those features are no longer just for race cars or just for brands like Mercedes. The spoiler on your car is also applying the same concept, right? So that's one example. Take another example, photosynthesis. That's my favorite because it's so boring. It's so boring. You can't, I mean, not boring, but like, where would you see it being applied, right? Here is where you see it. We have 4 examples on photosynthesis in our module on photosynthesis. And one of the examples is a professor at Harvard who's created an artificial leaf that does photosynthesis to produce electricity. And that's just applying the same concept, that's just creating an artificial version of the same concept, and in solving a very real problem, producing electricity. And what's the fundamental point that whole replication has created is that look at photosynthesis as energy generation mechanism. The plant is generating energy for themselves. You take the process, you do some tweaks, and instead of producing energy that is chemical in nature because the plant is making sugars, you're making electrical energy that you can use, you can store in batteries, etc. So you're solving a problem, and you're using a very, very known, very well understood concept of photosynthesis. So that's another favorite example of mine.
What is happening over here beautifully is that the science as a topic, which often is feared, which often uh, may not be understood by a lot, it is what I see happening over here beautifully is that we are trying to connect it with the actual life around you, around around the child. And I think uh, once the child gets that understanding, I think the spin-offs are, limitless. The sky is the limit.
Absolutely.
So this is a wonderful problem, I guess. You are, if I can say so, that you are solving, and really hats off, because I'm sure this is not an easy journey. So when talking about entrepreneurship, when talking about the process and the journey that goes behind, uh, entrepreneurs do face self-doubt or doubt from your people around you. How do you deal with self-doubt?
Actually, that's a very good question, Amrit, because generally people fear judgment from others, opinion of others. Thankfully, in my case, I don't look at most people. There are very selected people, and there are reasons why I value those people, because they have the knowledge, they have the expertise. There is a certain level of mentorship, respect I have, and they mentor me, etc. So their opinion I value. But other than that, most people I can easily shut them out in my mind. The challenge is that self-doubt is the more, is more vicious. It's more insidious, and it works all the time if you don't check it, right? So that's the one that's actually more harmful. I won't say that it doesn't affect me. Of course, it affects everybody at, like, and as an entrepreneur, it will keep coming on and on and on. I think I have realized that 3 things work the best for me. My immediate action is, I maintain a to-do list. I maintain a daily, a monthly, a daily, weekly, and daily to-do list. And that keeps me on point. I feel that, at any point in time, some amount of self-doubt, whenever self-doubt is creeping in, I look at the task list, and it's always huge. For entrepreneurs, the task list is endless. So, you don't have time to doubt yourself. Just look at the task list, and you'll be like, okay, forget about it. Let's focus on the task at hand. Okay. If that doesn't work, then the next step for me is, look at the task list and actually read it, and figure out the stage that you have reached by now, and see how much have you achieved so far. And now go back to the point when you started. And I'm pretty sure in my case it's very true, but I'm sure it's true for other people as well, that the moment you decided to start up, or even when you were deciding to start up, there were so many points of self-doubt, right? You didn't come this far, or I didn't come this far by giving into self-doubt, right?
Yeah.
So the point is, you make progress by beating self-doubt. So at least be thankful that you've achieved so far, and realize that self-doubt is not taking you anywhere. So shut it down and then move forward. Like, that's the way to progress.
Yes, yes. Very rightly said. Self-doubt is a bigger evil than the doubt from others, and that is what has to be kept in check. Uh, I think this practice of revisiting what good work has gone into the entrepreneurship journey that you have taken also reminds you of why did you started in the first place, and uh, it's just that it takes you back to that zone of motivation, and you can just keep on and move on.
Correct.
Awesome. Uh, Tell me, what is one best thing about entrepreneurship, and also one challenging thing in the journey of entrepreneurship?
I think the best thing about entrepreneurship is the range of problems that you work on. It gives you a place to wear so many hats at the same time. It puts you in a position where you can look at the same problem in so many different ways and so many perspectives. Like, as an employee, I would have seen hiring as in one very limited way, but as an entrepreneur, when I'm hiring for my team, I feel there are so many other aspects that go into that decision, which I would have never cultivated as an employee at any organization. So that to me is the biggest um, reason for starting up. That the sheer experience that you'll get, the diversity of perspective is really valuable. You won't get it anywhere else. The most challenging thing is keeping yourself motivated. You are the fountain of motivation in your organization. You can't lift that whale and tell your team that today is my low day, and something is bothering me. You still have to be brave and keep that brave front on for your team, so that they can keep doing while you're struggling with some question, some doubt, or something else. So to keep yourself motivated and keep that strength to help the team at least go on while you figure something out, I think that's the most challenging part of entrepreneurship for me.
Yes, indeed. Keeping yourself motivated, managing the to-do list that never gets over, and keeping up with trying to solve your challenges or the work that you come across in different ways, breaking the stereotypes, thinking out of the box, and actually making things work is something that entrepreneur does. And guys, the burnout that happens is real. Often, this is not only for entrepreneurs. It is safe to say it is not only for people who have started up businesses or have taken the plunge, but also the corporate leaders, or for that matter, any kind of professionals who are hustling even in their corporate career. So burnout is real, but from an entrepreneur's perspective, I would like to know, how do you prevent burnout, or I should say, how do you deal with it?
I think burnout for me has got some very okay, let me put it this way, very motherly advice to everybody, which is that sleep on time, get your sleep, eat on time, and don't be hungry, because when you're hungry you become a monster, and all that stuff. So you lose temper quickly, you can't think
I
straight.
know why you're quoting today, because eventually we come to realize that all of that is true.
Part of being a mother. Okay, so now I realize where that motherly advice comes from, but like, it's just natural. You become a mother and it just starts coming out. But yeah, so those are the things that are basically just those are sanity checks to keep the burnout down. I think for me there's another hack that I used to do, which is, and I still do it a lot of times, which is that when I have to do something difficult, or like, there is a time when I feel like, okay, I'm stressed, I'm tired, what I usually do is I keep some very familiar sitcoms in the background. So that's that is my way of, like, okay, I don't have to listen to it, I don't have to put my brain to it, but it's happening in the background, it's just comforting while I'm trying to deal with, my stress or whatever difficult thing. So that's my hack. It
They are
works.
they are basically your comfort zones where you can just let yourself be.
Right. It feels like these people are struggling with me, so I feel like, okay, let them hang around with me.
Awesome. So you just mentioned about being a mother and stepping in the entrepreneurial journey. It is never easy. It is never easy, and more so in case of women, it is never really easy. So. Um, Two things you'd want to share with women who wish to pursue entrepreneurship or take the plunge, and how has your journey been, more so obviously because of the initial conversation that I had before while we were planning this session. You mentioned about you were expecting back then when you actually took the plunge. So I would love you to highlight that phase of your life with the audience we have today.
Absolutely. uh I think you're asking for two things, Amrit. I have only one thing, which is, ladies, do not overthink. Okay. I know as a flock, we tend to overthink, overanalyze, and it's just, at the end of it, you realize it just wasted so much time. There is not too much to it about, especially about startup. There's not too much to it, actually, if you look at it. Okay. I think I'd like to point out something. I mean, of course, I've seen the stats and what it says. Like, the amount of funding that is raised by startups, a very small percentage goes to startups that are led by women. That stats applies for startups that have already taken off. If you are thinking you haven't started up, and the process, the decision of starting up is gender agnostic, please. I'm not being anti-feminist, I'm not being like too liberal here. All I'm saying is that if you really boil down to the whole decision of starting up, for every person, man or woman, it's absolutely simple, which is, do you have an idea? Do you really believe in it? Is it solving a real problem and you feel very convinced about it? Start up. It's just that simple. Okay. Every person has got their own reasons of doing it or not doing it. You are also one of those persons, not a man, not a woman, a person who has got these issues to figure out while you're deciding to start up. So that's the reason why I say the decision of starting up is gender agnostic. So forget about, like, I have this decision, I have a future, I have a baby, I have a husband, I have to look for a husband, I have to look for a partner. Please, it's your decision, it's your conviction, it's your idea. Believe in it and this startup. And it's very interesting, Amrit, that you use the phrase, jump. In my experience, there was no jumping. I did not jump. I did not wait for a parachute. I did not jump thinking there will be a parachute. No, it's very simple. It's not so dramatic as jumping. Okay. It's basically, you think, you plan, and you keep one step at a time, and that's how you make progress. It's that simple. It's not so dramatic as, oh my God, now we are jumping and what's going to happen. It's about planning. And I think that's where the whole idea, this idea of planning, really helped me, because when I decided to start up, I was expecting, my first trimester was over, and I was thinking about whether I should do it or not, given my stage in life. And I think when I made that decision, I think my pregnancy was the reason to start up rather than not starting up. And my logic was absolutely simple. I believed in my idea. I had already tested it at a very small scale. I liked it. I believed in it. I thought I should do it. And I realized that if the baby is here, I wait till the baby is here and then I start doing it, I will never be able to take it up. The baby is a lot more work, is a lot more engaging. And who doesn't love babies? Who doesn't love to be around babies? And I'm for sure the person who want to, spend as much time with the baby. So um, I realized that if I have to do it, I have to do it now, because I'll be able to make some progress before the baby arrives. And that should be enough to take it forward after the baby has come. But if I wait till my delivery, I don't think I would be able to even start the project up. And that's the reason why I started, even though I was in my second trimester. So no jumping, just planning, one step, one foot in front of the other. And here I am.
Exactly. This is so awesome. A key takeaway for the audience we have. Uh, the most complex situations could not stop Nandita, and it's not just about this case. It's about a lot of success stories we have heard. Uh, Again, I'm not trying to glamorize the success and the entrepreneurship, but you need to know that if there is, you need to have that conviction, and you need to have that belief in the idea that you have, with all kinds of validation or pilots if you have done. uh, if you want to do it, if you really want to do it, I think you should just go for it. And baby steps, small steps, plan them as Nandita quotes, plan them and just take them, keep going forward. Awesome. um, I want you to share some thoughts about, now that you have spoken about how people should just, or how individuals, not a male or a female, not women or men, but people should just get started. Goal setting is one of the key things when uh, anyone starts something, and this is something that is required right from a very early age, childhood, but then often it is, practiced sometimes or not, or some people do it. How do you practice goal setting in your business?
Okay. I think there are two parts to this question. One, at a very early stage, there is at when you're just starting up, there are goals, or there, let's say there are milestones. Big or small is not the question, but there are milestones that you want to achieve. And planning is there. It's not so much as, for me at least, the way I am thinking about it right now is that it's not so much about operations. It's about, setting things up, and those are the kind of milestones I'm talking about. It all depends upon planning. And when I say planning, I think the best way to describe my approach in planning is that you plan one thing which is ambitious, then you plan for the first level of failure, second level of failure, and ladies, you can put your overthinking here when you put the plan in place. Okay, you have to have plan A, B, C, and D at least. And that's sensible planning, and that's how you plan your milestones, figuring out what could go wrong and then having those checks in place to make sure that you meet the milestone in time. The second aspect is when the ball has started rolling, and some operations has sprung up, and things are moving now. For me, two things really helped. Like I told you, I was part of Cult, and Cult had a quarterly goal setting exercise, and that really put things in perspective, because you had to create measurable goals over there. So there you had to put a number around it, and you had to work it. Like that whole concept really stuck with me, and I wanted to bring it to my organization as well. So that's one thing. Like, if you are measured, you can't improve if you can't measure. So have those numbers around all the tasks, and that will really help you measure what's going on, and then probably think about improving them. But I'm also an analytics professional, and working with data is something, while working with data in these organizations that I've worked um, for some of them, I was also responsible for creating that kind of framework where those performance measures, those goals were defined. So I understood how those metrics come up and how to use them. So that knowledge, that experience also carried with me. And I eventually looked at the content production cycle that we eventually came up with, and put some measurable targets around it, and try to evaluate it on weekly basis, not monthly or quarterly. And then fine tune it. So I relied heavily on my operations manager to figure out qualitatively whether it's working or not. I'm used to do daily feedbacks around whether it's working or not, and take that into account for planning for next weeks and next month. So that's how I have approached it. And I think it works well for small organizations to not just look at metrics, but also the qualitative feedback that's coming in from the team about how easily or difficult it is for them to manage it, and what are the challenges, so that eventually when you reach a stage where these goals become the org becomes bigger, and these goals will become very real, and that's when you can have a very robust goal setting process, because you have accounted for, you have strong metrics and you have a strong framework of adjusting those metrics. You have that knowledge that you have gained and documented it over time, that you know where can it go wrong and how to set it up smartly.
Interesting. Have planning in place and those numbers in place for now for beginners. And for one thing that I really uh, appreciated that you said is plan for failures and have the plan, or I should say, case A, case B, or case C. In case what happens, think through the whole situation and not think of failure as an enemy. Embrace it. And it is. I had read it somewhere. It's one of the famous sayings about entrepreneurs that entrepreneurs pivot; they don't fail. If there is a situation, that's what they do. They pivot.
Right.
So amazing. All right. So 3 books that you would recommend to new entrepreneurs, or books or podcasts, whatever.
There is a lot of material out there, Amrit. I think in fact, I would go ahead and say that as a reader, you can probably have your picking at the reader or the writing style that makes you most comfortable. There is so much already written and explained in blogs and books, etc. So you can actually, like figure out who's writing to you like the most, and you can derive your knowledge from there. But for me, I think I would mention two readings, two people whose work I really liked. I read Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. The first time I read it as a casual reading, but then I realized that there is something, some of the nuggets are very, very important. And so I went back and read it as a textbook. So I have a copy where I have notes from Peter Thiel's book, and the book is underlined and dog-eared and everything. So that book is something that I think has also subconsciously led me to the planning framework that I adopted eventually. But there are certain great learnings, some great comments also, like having the contrarian view, and how you should target to create a monopoly. Don't struggle yourself in competition. Create a monopoly, because that's where you can build a moat. That's where you can like protect your profits. So those are some interesting learnings, but overall the book is a great read. The second thing I really like is Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman. I listen to the podcast, but there is a book also. I think it's funny. I used to listen to Masters of Scale when I was expecting. I used to go for my morning walks. I used to plan my day during those walks, and I used to listen Masters of Scale. And this is quite funny, and I don't think I have to anybody. But there is a legend in Hindu mythology where I think Arjun is narrating some war strategy to his wife while she's expecting, and the unborn child listens to that strategy and is able to use it when the child grows up in the war, in some battle. I don't know the exact details of that legend, but I feel that my baby has listened to Masters of Scale so much that someday, hopefully, she will also, apply something that she heard when she was unborn. So that's how I used to feel when I used to listen to Masters of Scale when my second and third trimester.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. Interesting times ahead. All right. So tell me 3 apps that you use to be on the top of your game, be productive.
I think I'm very basic in these, but what I'll also say is that even though it's basic, I think people underrate the value of these apps. I relied heavily on Google Docs. Documents. I relied heavily on Excel sheets, Google spreadsheets, and calendar. And I have very specific reasons also. More because we are into content production, and the entire premise of our quality depends on the kind of research and script that we make. And for that, we need a lot of collaboration on the script that we are writing. So Google Docs is very hands-on when it's easy to collaborate with multiple people reviewing that particular piece of writing. We looked at a few other script writing software, script writing apps. I thought, um, like some things in life are free and they are the best ones. Google Docs is one of them. It helped us collaborate a lot on script writing. So that's one. Excel sheet, I think people are very uncomfortable with using Google spreadsheets. It makes you very handy with the with all the data and everything that you prepare. It's easy to prepare plans on Excel sheet, but when I have seen people struggle a lot with, oh, I have to open my laptop for getting that sheet. No, it's on your phone. Just open it and just scroll it. It's so easy. You don't have to open your laptop. So I think it's still quite an underrated app or feature that Google has, which keeps you very hands on all the time on the move. And lastly, Google Calendar. And I tell you why. I built the team completely on work from home basis. I built the team when the deadly second wave was going on, and these tools are the only way to keep connected. And when you haven't met the person, I haven't met any of my team members in person. So you don't know what the vibe of the person is, how does the person conduct himself or herself. And just to have that kind of conversation on regular basis is difficult unless you do it face to face. So I think it is easier to have group discussions on setting up a calendar meeting rather than doing a WhatsApp call, a video call. So I think that ways on for teams, for companies who are always on work from home, it's an incredible free tool.
Yes, absolutely. I would rather say than basic. I think this is one of the most simplest solutions offered by one of the most complex companies in the world. So, and it is making lives easier. Trust me.
Much easier.
There's a lot more that even we do with the Google Calendar than just scheduling meetings, and it makes your life way easier. Trust me.
Correct.
Uh, Superb. So. I also want to know about your personal routine as an entrepreneur. Are you a morning person or are you a night person? And what kind of rituals, do you follow in terms of either managing yourself, your sanity, keeping it in check, or your teams, managing your teams or keeping up with your teams?
I am a morning person. I used to be a night person earlier, long time back, but now I'm a morning person. And I feel that there is another reason why I chose to use that morning to evening schedule as something as part of my own company's schedule as well, because I have seen in my other organizations that there is a lot of flexibility in how when people come into the office. And it creates a certain challenge when you're working. I mean, in bigger organizations, it's okay. A team on its own can figure out their own working hours. But for a team so small as mine, it's difficult when one person is working off hours. So it was important that we agree on a common routine. So I think being a morning person helped that way. Because I know for a fact that if a founder is a night person whereas the rest of the team is a morning person, then you're bound to screw up some person's evening or night, because like you might just say something unconsciously, you might ask something and then suddenly the people are talking about it, and that just ruins the work life balance. So I think thankfully all of us have aligned to a morning schedule and it works for everybody. um Sorry, what was your second question?
What kind of rituals do you follow for your teams or maybe yourself, uh, keeping in mind the morning person you are?
Right. So I think what is also important is that because everybody is in sitting in a different part of the country, um, it was important that we start with very inviolable aspects of our routine as a company. So we started with a daily stand up in the morning, which is 10 o'clock, and everybody in the company has to be part of that meeting. That was intentionally done. And I think now everybody loves the joining that meeting, because you get to see everybody, you get to listen to what everybody is doing, and you get to figure out how the overall what's the overall logic of the work being set up the way it is, and how they are contributing to it. So it creates a lot of cohesiveness in the team. And it, you're not sitting in silos and working at your own desk. It brings certain team bonding as well. And then my operations manager also set up has also set up some check-ins on the WhatsApp group about, where is everybody during the day, and how's it going, any challenges, to iron out any communication gaps, etc. I think that's very critical when you're running a team that's geographically diverse. So I think these are the two critical rituals that we have. And then we have an off and on happy hour, which is just being happy on the Google Meet. Nothing more than that, but we just love to play games and chat, and we'll find
Everything
more
beyond work.
person. And pulling and friendly bashing and all that happens. So that's a way of bonding with the team again. So yeah, those are the rituals that we follow in our team.
Yep. Post pandemic, things have changed, and they have changed for good for a lot of people. And here are a few, gems of wisdom that Nandita is throwing away. Awesome. Talking about rituals and talking about practices, we also talk about the mental and the physical wellness of an entrepreneur. You also highlighted the work-life balance that you try to strive, hard to strike for your team. So, uh, any thoughts on how you can suggest people?
I think like I said, an entrepreneur has got too many things on hand, too many things on mind. I think it helps to put it down into a task list, break it into monthly, weekly, daily. I even do an hourly task list as well if I don't have call schedule. So what it does is it reduces your cognitive burden. You don't have to keep things in your mind. It's already there in front of you on paper, right? And also you can do a mental check on the list, but that doesn't work so well. But if you have a list and then you put an actual like green color check, it really feels good. It gives you a high. And then the most important effect that a checklist brings is that writing down a checklist brings is that it forces you to break down all your tasks into simple smaller steps. And that helps you think in at a very simple level, like okay, what is fundamental to this particular complex task, and that really helps keeping you mentally sane. Another thing that has happened with me a lot, and I spoke to a lot of people and I've realized that it's common with a lot of people, is at an early stage of a startup, your conversations are always lengthy. Oh my God. I so many times my conversations have gone past 90 minutes, but on average it stays between 45 to 60 minutes. And the reason is very, very simple. You have to talk about your idea, you are enthusiastic, plain and simple. You want to talk about it, and you want to also tell the other person there is a certain bit of conviction that you have to arouse in the other person as well. Whether you're talking about talking to talk for just hiring, if you're hiring a person, if you're talking to for potential sales, if you're talking to a potential investor, advisor, anybody you talk to, you're talking about, even your friends, you want to convince your friends, Arey, bahut acha, it's a good idea, like, you dude, believe me, it's a good idea. Any conviction that you're trying to arouse in any group for that matter, the conversation will go past 45 minutes at least. And it's much better that during that time you keep your step count on. So just walk and talk. It's you'll realize that it has got health benefits. If you have 4 calls a day, you'll probably have walked 4 hours in the day. So that's a very good step count number.
Yes.
So keep that.
Little hacks for keeping up with your sanity and physical wellness.
Yes.
All right, so we have last 15 minutes left to conclude this session, and I have some really interesting questions about how do you approach your business? What kind of marketing techniques do you use? Online marketing techniques in this digital world we are working remotely, and you could maybe highlight the challenges that you face.
Right. So I think, Amrit, that was a very straightforward call for me, at least in the beginning. In my previous companies, I have seen that digital marketing seems to be the highest ROI method of marketing. That sounds good because you want the most bang out of your buck. So that's where I thought, yeah, hands down digital marketing. And then gradually I realized that there is more to it, with wherein social media comes in. And the time I realized that that social media is really powerful in getting that kind of reach, is when I had almost quit. It was 2 years after quitting social media that I realized, okay, I have to go back to social media for my business. And that's where the challenges started coming in. So anyway, I had worked on the data that came from digital marketing, but never on how the campaigns were designed, executed, and all that. And that's where the challenge started coming in, because I had to learn it, to figure it out, understand it, and I had to overcome my own inertia, get that mental bandwidth going to learn something new. And later, after I figured some things out, I also figured out that finding the right person who can work on digital marketing is very, very difficult. There are a lot of people with varying degree of knowledge and experience, and to figure that out is takes time and effort. And an easy way out is throwing money at the problem, but you as a very small startup, you don't have that luxury, right? So you need to have the most efficient solution in terms of right money and the right knowledgeable person, experienced person. So that came as a challenge, and same is the case with social media as well. I mean, I had to like get over my inertia, be present on social media, try experimenting with certain strategies like content strategy on social, etc. And then finding the right talent. There is so much of talent available on social media, right from the person who's just posting something to somebody who's actually doing sensible work. So figuring, like, moving across that range of talent available was a big challenge.
Yes, rightly said. And it is also important. A lot of people do understand, a lot of entrepreneurs do understand that marketing is a game of making educated decisions. Out of 5 decisions, 3 might go well, 2 might not, and it has to be
Right.
embraced.
Right.
And even during our journey at Tapsstart Digital, which is a marketing studio, we do get a lot of people that come to us and talk to us about how they have burnt hands. And you know see, with every revolution that happens, with the change in the industry that happens, comes a lot of opportunities and a lot of threats, which also you have to be careful about as an entrepreneur. uh,
Correct.
as to how you have to understand that whether person A is the right person for what I need.
Absolutely.
that,
Yes.
that's not, I don't mean to say that the person is not right. The person may be right in a particular use case or a situation. So
Hmm.
for an entrepreneur, it is a challenge, or it is something that the entrepreneur should be really careful about.
Hmm.
That what he or she really desires for his or her business at a particular point, and which
Hmm.
candidate is it? A company? Is it an agency? Or is
Hmm.
it a freelancer that can do the job? Because talking about bootstrap startups or early stage startups, cash
Hmm.
flows and finance management is really a bigger challenge than these things. So
Correct. Correct. I think you're absolutely right. Finding the right partner in this type of activity is really crucial, because A, you want to experiment, and B, you want to try things very, very quickly. You just don't want to run multiple experiments that keep going on. You need to be as agile. The partner needs to be as agile as you are. And they need to get that you are always in a hurry, and you have to match the pace, match the thought process, and quickly churn out certain experiments to figure out how are we proceeding with this activity. So you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, I totally wanted to have uh, the right person figuring this out, and I was totally willing to give my own inputs into what needs to be done. But frankly, that's my challenge. Like, that's the limit of my own knowledge and my own experience, that I'm not good at marketing. I need somebody who can understand my point. And the other challenge is, Amrit, you will realize that that's where you guys come in. More importantly is that um as an entrepreneur, as the creator of as a creator of an idea, let's say, and as a person who's pushing that idea forward, you are so blindsided by it, like everything looks important to you. But a person can come, like an outsider can come and tell you, like, okay, this seems to be something that is, that needs to be focused on in the marketing strategy, and that's a message that goes well easily. That's the message that your TG will accept easily. And
Correct.
so, that person helps in removing, or let's say, helps you, sit out of the driving seat for some time, and let the person, the marketers do their job of, figuring out what's what, and not the
Correct.
blinders let you, like, oh, my product is so good, and you're not doing justice. That's not how it works, right? That's the fear that an entrepreneur has, like, you're hiding the best part. That's not how it works. Like, they have to highlight the message that works the best with the TG, right? So
Correct.
that's
Correct.
where, I fear, but I realized with great hesitation that, let the marketer come in and do their job.
Yes, 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 yes. In fact, one of the services that we list on our websites is about strategy and consulting. And when people ask us, how are you exactly trying to help in the area of strategy and consulting, we say we are not the entrepreneurs for your business. You are the entrepreneur, but we just bring fresh perspectives to your business, which sometimes is essential. Being a third party, you are able to understand which piece of information is more critical at a particular
Correct.
point of time for your business to be communicated to your target audience. So,
Absolutely.
I really appreciate that you understand, and only entrepreneurs would understand what is the value of fresh perspectives or an outsider's perspective
Mm,
in their business that they are trying to build.
correct.
Awesome. A couple of more questions. I'm taking up your time, Nandita. Thank you so much for joining us
Love to
for
be
this
here.
session.
Absolutely.
Just a couple of more questions. That how has your this is one of the key areas which a lot of entrepreneurs feel intimidated about. So
Mhm.
that's why this question about team building a right team for your business is really a
Mm,
critical thing.
mm,
And how has your journey been on that?
mm. Uh, I think a lot of people have already said and spoken about getting the right set of people. I completely agree with the idea that people are one of the biggest investments of time, money, effort that you as an entrepreneur can put in your organization. Um, so my experience with this whole process of getting the team built up and getting the people together, um, it's been one of the the most rewarding experiences in itself, the most enlightening experience also. I derived a lot of learning out of it, and now when I think about it, I think my best and the worst decisions also lie in this domain. Like, the hiring and firing decisions are probably my um some of my best and worst decisions. So I think this entire process is very, very critical. I think people who have spoken about it, they're absolutely right that getting the best team is the best thing that you can do for your startup. So yeah, pay a lot of attention. I think I'd also highlight one specific thing that one a person advised me on early on, actually, and that has stuck with me a lot. I think I would like to share it with other people because I found a lot of sense in it. When you're starting up, it's your baby, and anybody who's joining that journey, you feel so deeply connected, like, oh, this is the person who I'm going to mentor. I'm going to help this person grow, and I'm going to grow this person with my company. And while it's all well and good, what happens is that it may not always be the best hiring decisions that you have. And frankly, at that early stage of your company, you want to quickly get to a level, you want to quickly churn out certain, maybe a feature, a product, or something at least, right? So at that time, I think it's important to disassociate from the idea of having a slightly more like being very emotionally attached to that person you have hired, and maybe keep it a little bit transactional at that stage of your entrepreneurship journey. Because you want to keep your eye on the prize, you want to get that feature rolled out, and having that sense of bonding with that person sort of prevents you from being more purposeful, being more driven, and like being very objective about achieving that goal. So I would say that do not hesitate to be transactional at that stage. You will get plenty of time and opportunity, plenty of people to coach and mentor with your startup. So yes, I get that. Understand that somebody joining your vision, your baby is not, is you feel very strongly about, but maybe having a little bit of transactional element is helpful, keeps you on track, keeps you on eye on the prize.
Yes, and that is in the best interest of the business that you are trying to build.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, talking about the industry that you are in, the edtech space, and the opportunities that lie ahead, what is your opinion about it?
There is a context to it that currently edtech is going through a lot of consolidation. But with that, I strongly feel that that we have barely scraped the surface. I think what has happened is that the last wave of edtech was about introducing a lot of technology and making the whole delivery of education more efficient, technological, but I think we have barely scraped the surface with it. Look at our education system, it's still the same. And deep and more fundamental changes are abound. They're bound to come, there is no way else. And this system will get overthrown. How and when, we'll have to wait and watch, but it's bound to happen. We have a national education policy 2020. It's directional, a lot of people feel good about it. It's a step in the right direction, but it's only a direction. How and when that will get executed is something that the entire education ecosystem has to explore, wait, figure out. But I'm quite bullish on it. I feel that a lot more changes are supposed to come. Maybe not in this round, let this consolidation happen, but those changes are abound, they will come for sure. So I'm quite bullish on the whole edtech space anyway. This is just a minor blip. Their funding and all that is a
Yes.
different part of the story.
Superb. So there's also a lot of buzz around the internet, around the social media about the Web 3.0 and the Metaverse. So being an entrepreneur and at being at a stage where you're still shaping things up for yourself, for your
Yeah.
business, have you ever thought about how would you imagine your business in the Metaverse or the Web 3.0?
Okay, I think I like the word imagine, because at this point in time I am not
That's
very,
what you can do.
I at this point I don't think I can really relate with it. Like I cannot, I mean, basically there is a lot of things that need to be done on metaverse before it really gets adopted. There are lots of issues as well. We keep hearing about like there are many issues with metaverse on ethical grounds as well. So using it for children, for education is I'm very apprehensive. But having said that, like your question says imagine, so I'm going to imagine. It's wishful thinking. And what I feel is that if done correctly and if done well, I think metaverse for our product can be a great value addition. And here's why. One element of our product, our program has got is a feature where we talk about what are the futuristic options, career options or jobs that a child can imagine themselves taking up. And we do this with every module that we have. So it's a recurring thing, and it's a very strong element of our program. And I feel that if metaverse were a real thing right now, I think it would blend in perfectly, because what it will help is that a child can actually imagine themselves in a particular profession, in a particular role, in a particular career. They can go and have an immersive experience into what that life would look around. And instead of me sitting there, there is an office, you do this on a daily day, this is what a day looks like, instead of me telling them, it would probably be go and explore, and figure out what's what. And then there is a sense of, there'll be a huge sense of aspiration there, that might work highly in motivating kids. So I wish that if metaverse were to do that, they could be a big thing for us as well.
What I really appreciate over here is, even if it is just a wishful thinking, the thinking as an entrepreneur is in the right direction, that the technology manifests in case of your business, and is actually able to solve a real problem, which is still around and has been, wherein students start in a direction, they pursue their graduation, and then they do a course correction, and all the 4 years or 3 years have just been in vain. So this is something that children at early age could be exposed to, where they could really uh, visualize or experience that what their actual 30-40 years is going to be like, and make the right decision. So I really like the way you think, the direction that you're thinking in right now. And here we are towards the end of this session, and I would like to wrap up this session with my last question about the three things you have learned in this journey. So much of good work has gone behind it. Three things that you have learned.
Okay, three things. I think first thing that I really like about being an entrepreneur, or I learned actually being an entrepreneur, is that being your own boss, being in control of your work life at least, is really liberating. It's great to work on your time and dime. It's amazing. The second thing, as I said, planning is goes a long way. Like, it's planning is not just an exercise to be done. I think planning is something that as an entrepreneur you keep doing at the back of your head, and it goes a long way in your success. And the third thing that I learned, and this is my personal, very personal to me, I used to be a person who felt that there is nothing called fate, there is nothing called love, luck, and there is you do your hard work and you see results. Now I'm starting to realize that fortune or random events, good or bad, good fortune, bad fortune, or random events, good or bad, they are a very real thing, and you would be foolish or vain to not acknowledge how random events also shape up your journey. So I have started to realize the value of, or not value, but like the powerful existence of random events.
Awesome. So at the point of concluding today's session, and having this wonderful conversation with Nandita, I would want to re-highlight the point that we are trying to make through this series of conversations with entrepreneurs, that while entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs, or the life of entrepreneurs, or the success of entrepreneurs are glamorized, it is not what it looks like. And even if for that little part of where the success is glamorized, entrepreneurs deserve it, because there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of things that goes behind running the show, and that's a little part of success that they get to enjoy. So two things, really value that, really appreciate that, but at the same time, don't just think that that is the overall view of what entrepreneurship looks like. There's a lot more that goes behind the roses of bed, and the bed of roses, I'm sorry, and there's a lot more to the journey of entrepreneurship. So thank you, Nandita, for highlighting your journey, and also um, inspiring a lot of other people on the internet, um, just to take your chances and go for it if you feel that there is something behind the idea that you have in mind. It was wonderful talking to you, Nandita. Um, would you like to share something, or is it good to wrap up today?
Well, I'm just happy to be here, share my own experiences. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I think I would really like to champion the case of women entrepreneurs, or people who are women who are just thinking about starting up and, hesitating. Talk to me.
Awesome. I like that. I like that. Really. Thank you so much, Nandita. This was a wonderful, power packed session, and looking forward to more discussions and more such collaborations. For you guys on the internet, we are going to come up with the volume 1, episode 2, 3, 4, and 5, so on and so forth. So stay tuned on the LinkedIn company page of Tapsstart Digital for more interesting content on entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us today. Thank you, Nandita. Uh, that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.